Thank you very much for joining us today. It will be the part 4 of the video Armageddon and the Beast, the protocols of the adjudicators of Zion. This is the English version. This is Supreme Court President. This is ex-attorney Mazuz. This is an Orthodox Jewish loyal to God commands. We will see what this cover of her head worth. It worth garbage because she is not loyal to God, nothing. She is loyal to the corruption God. Wilner, Jewish Orthodox. Okay, I will take you to the book. There are many mistakes in these skeleton arguments. I do not speak a mother tongue English. My mother tongue is Hebrew, a perfect mother tongue Hebrew. I did not try to make it very beautiful. It took efforts to correct all the mistakes. There are some mistakes, for an example, in, on, something like this. But the main important are the arguments. Are the arguments according to law or not according to law? Okay. Now, this is a Latin sentence. The computer will not read it properly. But, as I said, the arguments are the matter. Disregards any English correct. It will be approximately 1 hour. You can drive and listen carefully.
Case BL 2021 BRS 000036. Before His Honor, Judge Wales. The claimant, Mr. Shucker, Israeli ID number 0336134431. Address, Box 24. City, Naala. Zip 7954000, Israel. Email, msp_intl@yahoo.com. Phone, +972 523944942. Versus. Inspects Ltd 7-10, Kelso Upper Bristol Road, Bath BA1, 3AU England, +44 1225 71700. Maxima. Nemo debet seidex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. This skeleton argument is an inspiring essay regards corruption and human rights violations in the Israeli legal system, Supreme, District, Magistrate Courts, and the General Attorney institutions, to benefit the next generations worldwide. Hearing date August 2, 2022, skeleton arguments on behalf of the claimant representing himself. The main question in this hearing is, if the claimant will prove that Appeal 894917b.p15 of the Israeli Supreme Court, in the matter of the claimant and the defendant, a UK company, was in contradiction to Human Rights Act 1988 Law Article 6, a fair trial. If then, is this court has jurisdiction to get into the shoes of 894917b.p15? Not, in other words, if the claimant will prove that Hayat, the President of the Israeli Supreme Court, and Mazuz, ex-attorney and a justice in Israeli Supreme Court, were sitting in their own cases 894917b.p15 and 122720b.p41 in the matter of the claimant and the defendant. The second is if the defendant's witness, Mr. Lovett, gave a testimony. Is it a perjury and miscarriage of justice in Israeli courts supreme and district? If then, is 894917b.p15 and 37300-07-15 are unfair trials or not? Nemo debet seidex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 1. Timetable. The claimant believes that it will take 30 minutes for court to read these skeleton arguments and to understand in general what is the hearing about, and 30 minutes more to follow the appendices in office. Court already set a one-day hearing. The claimant believes it will take him 1 hour to read the skeleton loudly as court and the defendant following the appendices. The claimant will read it by himself, with not an assistance of a translator. The claimant thanks this court to order a translator. The claimant believes that most of the hearing he will not need the translator, even not to understand court nor the defendant. Only in a case that he does not understand he will ask court for some help. A note, the claimant did not edit the skeleton using a translator. His grammar mistakes are not important, sometimes can be incorrect, but if the arguments are correct or not, if according to the law. The claimant's mother tongue is Hebrew in the top and the highest level of literature, poet, and biblical. The claimant will come to the hearing. If the claimant will not come, for an example, he missed the plane or he is sick, or because of weather conditions, he asks this court to let the computer read his skeleton arguments loudly in the courtroom recorded by video as a response to the defendant's arguments, using word office, review, read loudly, definition, as ability to control the speed of reading, voice, female. It takes the computer to read it loudly, at medium speed, almost 60 minutes. The claimant also uploaded this file to YouTube under Part for the Protocols of the Adjudicators of Zion. Skeleton Arguments. Hearing date August-February 8, 22. The claimant is Mr. Shucker, also will be I in the hearing. The claimant is the author of the book Armageddon and the Beast. The Protocols of the Adjudicators of Zion. Sold in Israel and Amazon. Was edited by a professional translator and editor. This skeleton and his honor ruling will be published in the next edition. 5. A skeleton argument is always an essay, not always inspiring. The claimant does know the litigation's limits in the UK courts. Maybe, because of the gaps between the Israeli and British cultures, his honor Wales will assume that the claimant is rude. It is not correct. The only inspiring option to buy the audience is to let their minds get out into space. Sometimes people understand only via fiction. The fiction describes absurdity the best as boring article does not. According to the limit of the English humor, it looks like there is a balance in this skeleton argument. Mr. Richard Dawkins' style is convincing. Nemo debet seidex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 2. The claimant opposed to any translation not under a notary unless it is one paragraph or short text that the claimant can confirm its translation immediately with no need of a translator. All the translations of the defendant are in the power of forgery. The claimant opposed to read or quote from 894917b.p15 because its illegality, a justice cannot sit on his own case. Nemo debet seidex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 3. The claimant will open with a practical question. If a judge has a trespassing dispute between himself and one of his neighbors, can the judge sit in his own case, meaning he will be the claimant or defendant or key witness and a justice in the same trial? Well, the answer is no. And why not? Because sometimes the answer is so clear that there is no need to explain it. We all know that a judge is a human being. Normal people cannot be at the same time in different places. If a person died of starvation, why did he die? Because he did not eat a nutritional food. If so, the answer is simple. Fortunately, the UK laws supports the claimant, see Human Rights Act 1988 Article 6, if the judge is also a key witness, he is partial and not independent but dependent in his own interest to influence the case results. The claimant will answer the questions that are in the title. Nemo debet seidex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 4. Introduction. The claimant's goal is to have this document short and accurate as possible. In 2009, there was a dispute between the parties if there was an agreement or not. The claimant is an Israeli citizen, and the defendant is a UK company. It is not important to detail the dispute since in Israel, there was a legal trial case number 37300-07-15. Justice Renner described the disputes between the parties so thoroughly it is unbelievable. If the translation is correct, then the descriptions are in B.P158, paragraph 1-6. Since the rest is a fake under an oath B.P261, the claimant declare of the translation in power of forge. The contradictions are shown also in the skeleton paragraph 15.4. The defendant will go to 15.4 and read it now. The defendant did attach the Hebrew version to the bundle B.P129. Since the claimant proved that the foundation of Renner collapsed due P261, the rolling value is nothing. What did she do? She copied the affidavit of Mr. Levitt B.P192 and confirmed it is true. Now we know it is a fake. Both parties can copy Renner's paragraph 1-6 without saying that it was from Renner because both agree that it was very accurate. Therefore, Mr. CEO's testimony should be in the History Channel. If the heart and the brain of Renner's ruling are not working, every doctor will issue a death certificate and every justice will issue a void certificate as Lord Campbell did to Cottenham, passed away 1850, ruling in 1852. Why to repeat about the dispute if it was ruled already and both parties approve it as correct? Final ruling was given in 2017 by Justice Renner in the Jerusalem District Court. Between Israel and UK, there is a convention to recognize civil rulings since 1971. In 37300-07-15, the claimant lost his case. The claimant appealed to the Israeli Supreme Court in case 894917 B.P 15894917 started in year 2017. The claimant started suing Israeli judges in Israeli courts, criminal and civil, according to his claims that they are corrupted. The suing cases started before the claimant knew that an 894917 B.P 15.2 of the defendants/key witnesses in March 18, 4062 B.P 33 will be the judges in 894917 B.P 15. If it is true or not, meaning, if the judges are corrupted or not, it is not important. The matter is that according to UK law the Human Rights Act 1988 Appeal 894917 B.P 15 is not legal due to Article 6. Heard by an independent and impartial court or tribunal. The claimant applied a claim form and POC and 8 appendices including a apostille translated by a notary to this UK Bristol court, in the matter of business and property, under an amount of approximate £4 million, 26 kilometres distance of the defendant's address, City of Bath. In this short skeleton arguments, the claimant will prove that the defendant did not refute the claimant's main arguments that Esther Hayat, the president of the Israeli Supreme Court, was sitting in her own cases 894917 B.P 15 and 122720 B.P 41, which is an appeal on March 18, 4062 B.P 33 in a matter of the claimant and the defendant in specs. Furthermore, Esther Hayat and Mazos refused to disqualify themselves the last 3 times, each. The claimant will also prove that in March 18, 4062 B.P 33 Mazos and Hayat were key witnesses/defendants while the claimant was Mr. Shucker in a matter of the defendant, that was a key witness too in case March 18, 4062 B.P 33. As has been shown that 2 of the 3 justices in the tribunal were Mazos and Hayat, presided in case 894917 B.P 15. Nemo debet seiudex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 5. The claimant's main claims. The claimant opposed to any translation not under a notary unless it is a 1-paragraph or short text that the claimant can confirm its translation immediately with no need of a translator. The claimant distinguishes between the main and the less important. Down below is the main. If UK laws demands a respond to each claim, then the claimant denies everything that has not been proven in court. Surely the claimant will not understand everything the defendant will say in the hearing. No need to understand all since it is impossible to prove that Hayat and Mazos were not sitting in their own cases in the matter of the claimant and the defendant also. Therefore, the plaintiff believes that the hearing is a waste of time, and the judge could order without a hearing, just by looking at the POC. There is a main, and there is secondary. A wise judge is the one that can spot the constraint or turning point immediately, then to order. The claimant defined the constraints in the title. Appendix 1 and POC case 894917b.p15 is illegal. 894917b.p15 is illegal and unfair trial according to UK laws, the Israeli Law 77a, A1, and the natural laws. Then, due to the convention between Israel and UK, court must respect any legal trial such as 37300-07-15 and not to respect any non-legal as 894917b.p15, meaning this Bristol court will make a trial to determine if 37300-07-15 was right or wrong, same as an appeal. The claimant rejects any idea to summon witnesses or investigating them, but only to follow the basic principle. In an appeal, no party will apply new documents to the court. All should rely only under a notary translation, not a private translation, as the defendant did translate by herself incorrectly on 37300-07-15 trial documents that already were given in Israel. If this UK court will decline the claimant's claim, then actually the claimant did not have the right to appeal, and the UK court supports violating human rights by giving legitimation to others that violate them. Meaning that assuming there is no right in UK for an appeal, the UK court under Human Rights Act 1988 and the Convention between Israel and UK cannot legitimate a non-legal appeal. The claimant asks this court to step into the shoes of the tribunal 894917b.p15 to continue a legal proceeding. Regard jurisdiction, there is jurisdiction. Responsibility, inspects and others knew it all and broke the Human Rights Law Act 1988, a UK law, they must be punished. The claimant is constantly reliable while the defendant always lies. Nemo debet se iudex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. 6. The defendant's main claims. Applicated 2 draft orders. 1 is under the declare. The court has no such jurisdiction, or alternatively should not exercise any jurisdiction which it may have, to try the claim. The other one was how to run this hearing. Applied a testimony. Did not apply a defense letter. Nemo debet se iudex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 7. Explanation and details of a document on behalf of the Israel Courts Administration containing all the details of the cases relevant to this hearing. Appendix 5 in POCB.P58. Appendix 5B.P58 is under an apostille bundle. The author is not the claimant, but the Administration of Courts of Israel. Below the notary's stamp, we see case 452214 Mazuz, Shucker vs. Inspects. Next page on the top, case 894917, Shucker vs. Inspects, Justices, Hayat, Mazuz, Wilner. In the middle of the page, case 122720b.P41 Shucker vs. the State of Israel, Justice Chief Hayat, the President of the Israeli Supreme Court. Please note the most important 122720b.P41 was an appeal on January 19, 4318 that was an appeal on case March 18, 4062b.P33. The claimant is pointing now with his finger on case March 18, 4062b.P33 and last down below is 143714 Shucker vs. Inspects, Justice Hayat. 143714 was an interim appeal on 23008-05-12. 452214 was an appeal on 143714 and 23008-05-12. According to date, clearly, 143714 is an interim appeal. Down below is a chart, taken from the said document. Details of the proceeding. Filing date. Name of the parties. Closing date. The tribunal that gave the decision/ruling. The case at the lower court. C.A. Civil. 45-2214. June 26, 2014. Sahar Shucker vs. Inspects Ltd. July 6, 2015. Justices Rubinstein Danziger, Mezuz. District Jerusalem Case Number 23008-05-12. 894917. November 16, 2017. Sahar Shuker vs. Inspecs Ltd. January 10, 2021. Justices, Hayat, Mezuz, Wilner. District Jerusalem Case Number 37300-07-15. 1227/20. February 16, 2020. Shuker vs. The State of Israel. March 23, 2020. Chief E. Hayat. District Tel Aviv Case Number 4318-01-19. Magistrate Tel Aviv, Case Number 4062-03-18. 1437-14. February 25, 2014. Sahar Shuker vs. Inspecs. May 19, 2014. Justice E. Hayat. District Jerusalem Case Number 23008-05-12. Nemo debet seidex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 8. Explanation and details of case, March 18, 4062, Appendix 2b.p33. Shuker vs. State of Israel. Key witnesses are the claimant, Hayat and Mezuz, and the defendant Inspecs. The claimant will prove that Hayat was sitting in her own case in a matter of the claimant and the defendant in an appeal case 1227/20b.p41. The claimant will prove that March 18, 4062b.p33 was in a matter of Inspecs the defendant and that Hayat and Mezuz were key witnesses in case March 18, 4062b.p33. The most important is that Hayat was sitting in her own case in a matter of the claimant and the defendant. The heading of the claim is, a civil lawsuit for a general cause of blatant negligence. In the civil case it was not possible to sue justices, so the claimant sued the State of Israel as it is responsible for the outcome. The claimant will read case, March 18, 4062b.p33 paragraphs 1-4. Approximate 10 minutes. This lawsuit is based on the appendices that are scanned in the criminal complaint 11592-05-17 and on the decision of the Honorable Kaduri to discuss the complaint if the plaintiff will appoint a lawyer for himself. With respects to the decision in Appeal 52766-06-17, the proceeding did not match the criminal severity against presiding judges, even though you could have added to the lawsuit those judges who retired. The state opened in Protocol 52766-06-17 and did not object to the essence of the claims in the criminal complaint, but it did object to the failure of the representation, and it justified the Honorable Kaduri. The lawsuit against the delegation of Supreme Court Justices Mr. Rubinstein, Mr. Danziger, and Mr. Mezuz who presided in Civil Appeal 452217, and Mrs. Nair who was Chief Justice then, and Mrs. Hayat, the incumbent Chief Justice, in Proceeding 1437/14, and the District Court, Judge Mrs. Steinitz in the Proceeding 23008-05-12. As was written in line 7 of the protocol in Civil Appeal 452217, the plaintiff in this case, who was the appellant in that appeal, asked of Mr. Rubinstein to recuse himself, and he did not respond to that. According to the laws regarding the disqualification of judges, the ruling is invalid. When a ruling is invalid, it means that there was defamation, and you can sue of defamation. This is the basis for the lawsuit, the illegality, and the derivative of defamation. As is specified in 11592-05-17, the appellant in that appeal submitted a testimony affidavit regarding the illegality a few days after the aforesaid civil appeal. About the defamation, it was written about the appellant that he supports the release of Amir in order to choose him as a victim of unrestrained outburst, to degrade him, to humiliate him and to hurt his chance to win his lawsuit, and they dismissed it without prejudice. The matter of Amir has been said as an absurdity with respect to the presentation of the case that is the subject of the Appeal 23008-05-12 on the day the lawsuit was dismissed with prejudice, in which Mrs. Steinitz wrote that she is punishing the plaintiff for complaining against her and against the incumbent Chief Justice Mrs. Hyatt, before the Attorney General. The appellant in Civil Appeal 452214 said as a matter of absurdity the Mrs. Steinitz presents the action of the complaint through an affidavit as an invalid thing, then you need to release Yigal Amir because the police filed against him at court affidavit of accusation. A note by the claimant, Amir assassin Prime Minister Rabin RSP, with respect to the description of the damage beyond the defamation, this is violation of the basic law of human dignity and liberty, because according to Article 58 of the Criminal Procedure every person has the rights to complain against any person at the police. Therefore, all of those who are mentioned above also intimidate and deterred every person from about judges out of a fear of punishment. The lawsuit 23008-05-12 was dismissed without prejudice, and the plaintiff sued in 37300-07-15. The plaintiff lost in the last case and there is an appeal on that, Civil Appeal 894917. Judge Renner was influenced by the invalid civil appeal, based on the reason that appears in the last page there October 18, 17. About Mrs. Nair, the plaintiff was told by a clerk of the Supreme Court, perhaps David, that after the ruling in 452214 Mrs. Nair took the case for review to her office after the plaintiff filed a petition to copy the case. Once she did not find any flaw, then she is an accomplice to the negligence and to the liability of the delegation. With respects to Mrs. Hyatt and the continuation of the description of the damage, she ruled that the defendant in proceeding 1437/14 duly filed an affidavit of evidence in chief, while something like that never happened. Therefore, Civil Appeal 4522/14 is a case of negligence that exceeds one's imagination regarding what stands in the foundations of the laws and the liability of the delegation. The continuation of the damage the defendant has sworn to its version in the following proceeding of 452217, which is 37300-07-15, only on the witness stand. And the plaintiff could not have adequately prepared for his lawsuit and he was surprised. End of quote. Nemo debet se iudex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 9. Here is a summary of case, March 18, 4062 B.P33. Paragraph 1 details criminal cases, a case 11592-05-17 and the appeal on it 52766-06-17. Paragraph 2 details that case, March 18, 4062 B.P33 is a claim on case 452214 Justice Muzos. It should be 452214 and not 452217, it is a typing mistake. Also case March 18, 4062 B.P33 is on case 143714 of Hyatt. 452214 was an appeal on case 143714 as has been said before. Paragraph 3, again, case 452214 Justice Muzos is mentioned. The claimant will quote from the last sentence in paragraph 3, the plaintiff lost in the last case and there is an appeal on that, Civil Appeal 894917. Judge Renner was influenced by invalid civil appeal based on the reason that appears in the last page there October 18, 17. The claimant will bond 1227/20 B.P41, March 18, 4062 B.P33 452214, 143717 and 894917 B.P15 as in parallel, still pending open cases and will prove that Hyatt said it by herself. Paragraph 4 is mentioning again case 452214 Justice Muzos. And again case 1437/14 Justice Hyatt. And again, case 452214 Justice Muzos and again 452214 Justice Muzos and mentioning case of Renner's 37300-07-15. Nemo debet se iudex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 10.an interim summary so far from start up to now The Games of Thrones. It has been proven that 122720b.p41 was an appeal on January 19, 4318 that was an appeal on March 18, 4062b.p33. Also, that the claimant sued the State of Israel because of blatant negligence of Hayat case 143714 and Mazouz on 452214. It is clear that Hayat and Mazouz are partial. It is clear that Hayat was sitting in her own case. It is clear that Hayat and Mazouz play the game of chairs. Mazouz sit in an appeal on case 452214 on Hayat 143714, then Hayat sit in her own case in 122720b.p41 to save herself and Mazouz in case 452214 and other justices not to be witnesses in case March 18, 4062b.p33. Finally, the witnesses in case March 18, 4062b.p33 were the justices in case 894917b.p15. It is clear that March 18, 4062b.p33 and 894917b.p15 were in a matter of the claimant and of the defendant in specs. It is clear that 894917b.p15 is not legal under Human Rights Act 1988 Article 6. Please remember that InSpecs knew it all from beginning to end along 3 years. It is clear that Hayat, Mazouz, the claimant Mr. Shucker, and the defendant InSpecs are all key witnesses in case March 18, 4062b.p33. Did you ever heard of a key witness that can be a judge sitting on his own case as did Hayat the President of the Israeli Supreme Court, the people of the Bible, land of the Jews? And do not have a mistake. The claimant is Jewish, not a member in the BDS and was a combat soldier also as in reserve duty soldier in the IDF the last 20 years, taken to Lebanon Second War. If it is legally possible not to be a soldier, but to be a justice and a key witness in the same trial, then the claimant would like to be a judge in this Bristol case also a witness. Guess who will win the case? According to the defendant arguments it is fair enough. So pathetic and ugly behave of Hayat and Mazouz. The arguments of the defendant just show hypocrisy since they will not agree that the claimant will sit on his own case as did Hayat. Nemo debet se iudex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 11. More proves that 894917b.p15 was not under the Human Rights Act 1988 Article 6, heard by an independent and impartial court or tribunal. In Israel, in contrast to UK, court only has a typist and no video record nor audio record to control better of the biasing of protocols and trials. Never forget that Israel is a high-tech state. No problem to install a recording machine in the court. According to Appendix 6 in POCB.P73, court did not permit to record by the appellant on his expenses and did not record independently also. It is clear why. It is easier to bias a case. To date, June 10, 2022, the claimant has noticed that not all of what he said was typed. 3 first pages are dealing about asking court to record the hearing. The summary of the claimant about recording on Appendix 6, B.P75, last sentence the claimant said to Hayat, that everyone will know you are abusing the power you have against me. Mr. Shucker just wanted a fair trial and Shin Bet, the equivalent of the MI5, was trying to prevent Mr. Shucker to stand on his rights. Did you ever see an armed MI5 bodyguarding in private, a justice in court, while the case is civilian non-national state security and non-criminal? For a normal person it is horrified, surely afraid to stand up on his rights. Hayat lied. The Shin Bet bodyguard was standing nearby her 4 meters away only in the second hearing, not in the first one, since Shin Bet told Hayat that the claimant might attack her physically, therefore 2 other bodyguards made a guard wall between Mr. Shucker and Hayat and Mazouz. The goal was to break Mr. Shucker's fighting spirit and to depress his confidant. Mr. Shucker stood as a steel pillar facing the dictator's face to face, with empty hands, only his courage seeking for justice for humanity. The claimant quotes from page 15 in the middle bundle, telling Mazouz, I have a personal problem with you. I personally sued Justice Mazouz in a complaint proceeding, I have the number. With all due respect, a person of the Shin Bet and 2 security guards are here. The Shin Bet ordered to surround Hayat and Mazouz and to create a guard wall between the parties, although the claimant never moved of his chair. Justice Mazouz admitted that the claimant had claims versus him in person, criminal case. More quotes B.P76, in the middle of the page I sued you personally through a criminal complaint. B.P76, pre-last line, let's go to the criminal proceeding. In page 16, B.P77, line 3. Mazouz said I do not need to see it. In case 1227/20 B.P41 Hayat was sitting in her own case and was benefiting Mazouz and the defendant in specs. In 452214 Mazouz benefited Hayat as an appeal on 1437/14 and the defendant in specs. If the claimant will drop tears, it is not because of what happened to him, but because of all the victims that Hayat and Mazouz won, nobody knows about them. It is a holocaust. If he will not drop tears, it is because no tears left. In Appendix 3, 122720, B.P41 Justice Hayat did not see any problem to have a non-legal trial because of case March 18, 4062 B.P33 and clearly with total awareness. Here is a quote of her ruling 1227/20 B.P41 paragraph 4 page 6. The appellant's main claim is that I dismissed with prejudice his petition to recuse myself from discussing the appeal he filed due to the dismissal with prejudice of one of the lawsuits he filed against Inspecs. See my decision from August 21, 2019 in Civil 8949-17, and that the reason why I dismissed with prejudice the aforesaid petition of the appellant also sued this current petition of his that I will recuse myself from discussing this appeal, and I do not see a need to repeat them. End of quote. Did Hayat mentioned on 122720 B.P41 the name Inspecs and 8949-17? Yes, she did. Nemo debet se iudex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. Shall we not forget that the claimant proved just right now technically with no needs of Hayat's ruling that on 1227/20 B.P41 Hayat was sitting in her own case in the matter of the claimant and the defendant. Finita la comedia, the farce is over. Because Appendix 489-49-17 B.P49 date August 21, 2019 of Justice Hayat is not so much long and will solve any hesitation due to Mazouz and Hayat, the defendant will read all of it in court. Approximate 10 minutes. On August 1, 2019 a hearing was held in the appeal in question, and its ending, while paying attention to the different claims for disqualification that the appellant raised before the justices of the tribunal, it was decided that the appellant needs to file a separate petition and a separate reasoning to each of the justices of the tribunal that the appellant wishes to disqualify them in order that each of the justices will give a decision as is required. In accordance with the aforesaid, on August 12, 2019 the appellant filed a petition to instruct that I will be disqualified from presiding in the case. The appellant's main claim was that in the past I presided in another proceeding in his matter, P.C.A 1437-14 Schucker vs. Inspecs Limited, May 19, 2014, hereinafter, the previous proceeding. And because of my rulings in that proceeding I need to recuse myself from presiding in his matter now. The appellant also referred to what is said in his petition to disqualify Justice M. Mazouz, which was filed on October 21, 2018, and in it he claimed that he filed a tort lawsuit against the court administration that in it he raised, inter alia, claims against my rulings in previous proceeding, C.C., Magistrate Tel Aviv, March 18, 4062 Schucker v. The State of Israel, December 14, 2018. The appeal that the appellant filed against that proceeding is still pending at District Court in Tel Aviv Jaffa, C.A, District Tel Aviv, January 19, 4318, and according to the appellate existence of pending proceeding in which claims were raised against me also requires my disqualification from presiding in his matter. Eventually, the Justice Selection Committee it is inappropriate that I will preside in his matter, since as a result of my membership in the aforesaid committee, I may deliberate on the promotion of judges who deliberated on his affairs in various court instances. In order to complete the picture, it needs to be noted that the appellant also filed simultaneously to this petition to disqualify Justice M. Mazouz who is a member in this tribunal. the petition needs to be denied. The condition for disqualifying a judge from presiding in case is that there is a real concern of bias on the side of the tribunal, CA 4569-19 John Doe v. Jane Doe, paragraph 4, August 7, 2019, and it was already ruled that the same tribunal held a previous proceeding in the matter of a litigant does not raise in itself a cause for disqualification. In order to substantiate such a cause, the applicant is required to show that there is a real concern that the judge's opinion has been fixated because of the previous proceeding, C.A. 2004-18. I do not believe the fact that I deliberate in the previous proceeding raised such a concern. The previous proceeding was a petition for permission to appeal, which was denied by a short decision that its reason was that the decision that was the subject of the petition for permission to appeal was a decision regarding procedures, which is given to the expanded discretion of the court instance that deliberated on that case. It is obvious that such a decision cannot lead to the conclusion according to which my opinion became fixated with respect to the matter of the appeal, or that under these circumstances there is a real concern of bias that justifies my disqualification from presiding in this matter. You need to add to this that the claims that the appellant raised in C.C. March 18, 4062 regarding my decision in the previous proceeding do not point to any true personal interest, as is required in Section 77A, A1, that I have in these proceeding or in their outcomes. End of quote. To remind you, Hayat is the president of the Israeli Supreme Court. Hayat wrote, claims against my rulings in previous proceeding, C.C., Magistrate Tel Aviv, March 18, 4062 Shucker v. The State of Israel, December 14, 2018. The appeal that the appellant filed against that proceeding is still pending at District Court in Tel Aviv Jaffa, C.A., District Tel Aviv, January 19, 4318. End of quote. Hayat said claims against my ruling, meaning, she is partial, a key witness in March 18, 4062 B.P33. She said also that the claimant asked to disqualify Mazouz twice, first on October 21, 2018, the third one was after on December 21, 2022, Appendix 6B.P73. Even if we disregard that all was in a matter of inspects, Hayat thinks she can be also a key witness in case March 18, 4062 B.P33 in a matter of the claimant, and she can be also a judge in case 894917 in the matter of the claimant inspects. Also a judge in her own case 122720 B.P41 while of all the cases the claimant is Mr. Shucker and Hayat said still pending. Now is the correct moment to laugh. Ha ha ha. Mr. Bean must have a show on it. If we are considering that it is in a matter of inspects and March 18, 4062 B.P33 or January 19, 4318 is still pending in parallel to 894917, and the claimant quotes Hayat herself again as she wrote still pending, according to herself at her ruling, we can be sure that Hayat has an interest that the claimant will not win on 122720 B.P41 an appeal on January 19, 4318 an appeal on March 18, 4062 B.P33 and on 8949/17 B.P15. To remind you, the claimant proved that Hayat was the justice on 122720 B.P41 on date March 23, 2020, an appeal on January 19, 4318 that was an appeal on March 18, 4062 B.P33. The claimant proved that Hayat and Mazouz, both, were defendants or key witnesses in March 18, 4062 B.P33 still pending to 894917 in a matter of the claimant Mr. Shucker and the defendant inspects. Nemo debet se iudex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 12. A summary regards 894917 B.P15 as non-legal from start up to now. Appendix 1, Case 894917 B.P15 is not legal, and Mr. Shucker, as a winner, was Mazouz and Hayat and the defendants lost, exposing biases of procedures by many other justices in Israel. In other words, Mr. Shucker has found the Israeli legal system corrupt, therefore, he could not win in Israel. Everybody know the story The Emperor's New Clothes, the child is the claimant, Mr. Shucker. He fought versus a herd of tyrants for freedom and justice and human rights, for himself in parallel for all humanity since he could not let evil win. 894917 B.P15 contradicts any natural laws in UK Human Rights Act 1988 including 77A, A1, said by Hayat herself. If the question on the title was, can Esther Hayat, the president of the Israeli Supreme Court, be on date August 2, 2022, 10 o'clock, in Bristol, Bristol time, and 10 o'clock in Jerusalem, Jerusalem time, it is possible, since Esther Hayat surely can fly a little bit slower than Gal Gadot, the Israeli Wonder Woman, to travel 3,763 kilometers within 2 hours. Please note that it takes Gadot to do it in a 1 nanosecond. If she's getting out 10 o'clock from Bristol to Jerusalem, Hayat, not Gadot, it is possible since Bristol time is 2 hours earlier, but opposite, she must get out 8 o'clock to travel 3,763 kilometers. If Mezuz and Wilner will have a JV, they should contact Hollywood, since the world is getting warmer, and we need superheroes to save our lovely universe. We should use Hayat, Mezuz and Wilner superpowers to solve humanity problems. Time is running out. Hayat is immortal, but we are not. Hayat's next mission is to fly back on time to the Big Bang, not the UK Tower, the Big Ben, the Clock Tower, the Elizabeth Tower, a 170.88693345465556. His Honor Wales, I was confused, I missed a digit, never mind, I will continue. 78342323227 kilometers airline distance from Bristol Redcliffe to. The claimant must be accurate. In space each nanometer is crucial to navigate, but the start of our lovely cosmos, 14 million years ago, after Hayat founded the Higgs particle, she will carry on her back the Shin Bet bodyguard, to secure her from UFOs. Do not have a worry regard the spacesuit. The claimant used to work in the Israeli space facilities. He is swearing under an oath that they are better than NASA. Hayat is a supper woman. The suit is for her bodyguard. Hayat, Mezuz and Wilner are going to push away the sun in bare hands, so British will not suffer in August and push it backwards in cold winters. Hayat and Mezuz are going to create a guard wall surrounding the UK from the side of the Atlantic. Hayat said, it will work. Mezuz, the ex-attorney up to 2010 said, I trust you, the best Wonder Woman that promoted me to be a Supreme Court Justice. Winter is coming, Wilner said. I am just a follower, after the one that promoted me in the committee to be a Supreme Court Justice. Dear Hayat, Justice Mrs. Steinitz of case 23008-05-12 sending her regards after you promoted her to be a Supreme Court Justice. Justice Kaduri also, after you promoted him immediately after case 11592-05-17 from magistrate to district. We are corrupt, we are stronger, we step on the weak, we enjoy it, we are cruel, nobody can stop us, we are immortals. I only sit as a tribunal member if the justices sit on their own cases. I did nothing, I just obeyed Hayat's order. If someone will obey a manifest illegal order, I, the prophet of justice, again, yes, I, and please call me the great, an Israeli Supreme Court Justice, will punish him, since it contradicts God's commands. Hayat and Mezuz are superheroes. All the children in the world want to buy their plastic dolls. Hayat, Mezuz and Wilner eat superfood such as Popeye's spinach. Nemo debet seidex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 13. Clear defects of the defendant's regard if was or was not an agreement. If there was or not, it is not relevant since the appeal was not legal, so we do not know objectively the answer now. Mr. Shucker appealed. It is possible to see in Appendix 6 the protocol of 894917b.p81, line 5th start, we on the second paragraph below notary stamp a quote of inspects 3 years after Renner's ruling, we undertake not to look for another distributor in Israel for 9 months. So, according to the defendant, anyway there was any kind of agreement. It is impossible not to look for another distributor and at the same time not to sell the claimant in this period. Please note that the defendant refused to sell after 3 months. What benefit will be to the claimant in such an agreement? Surely the claimant is a businessman, not a volunteer in a charity organization. The claimant volunteers in his community, but he did not in this dispute matters. So surely there was an agreement that UK court will need to find its values. The defendant said clearly that the claimant was her distributor. See Mr. Lovett English and the Hebrew affidavit paragraphs 42b.p197 and the English b.p113 and said I was happy for him to market. Nemo debet seidex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 14. About the jurisdiction of this court. Since the claimant proved that 894917b.p15 is not a fair trial under Article 6 of Human Rights Act 1988 or any other natural laws, and that 894917 was in the highest court of Israel, the Israeli Supreme Court, and the justices were of the top rank of Israel, Mezuzah's ex-attorney and the president of Israeli Supreme Court by herself, after 6 times trying to disqualify Hayat and Mezuz with no success, the claimant has no other option to have a fair trial, only in this business and property court, located in Bristol, which is 26 kilometers of the defendant, as simple as the address of the defendant's Upper Road, Bristol. Nemo debet seidex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 15. Translations given by the defendant on May 25 do not benefit the defendant, but worsen. The documents the defendant gave what Mr. Shucker said to Judge Reuven RSP Bundle has no value since from the beginning the claimant could claim in UK or in Israel. Now we understand why forests are disappearing, the defendant waste papers. Because he is living in Israel, he chose Israel. It was not a land dispute. Surely the defendant applicated that in Israel there is no jurisdiction, therefore the claimant responded to Judge Reuven RSP, if so, according to the defendant, there is no jurisdiction in Israel nor in UK. Maybe Hayat will find that there is out of space. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Hayat. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds. To seek out new life and new jurisdictions. To boldly go where no man has gone before. The defendant did not show her applicant given to Judge Reuven RSP to this UK court. The defendant misled this UK court. Regarding Renner's ruling 37300-07-15, it has no value to this hearing but to next hearing. In a multi-track case, everyone has the right to have an appeal. This ruling 37300-07-15 is legal, but the claimant has the right to have an appeal on it. The claimants thank this court that gave the defendant to translate 37300-07-15 without a notary, since the claimant did not have any more founds to do it with a notary. Now it is possible to show the contradictions made by Renner B.P165. In paragraph 22, she quoted the defendant writing to the claimant, "We are happy for you to market our cat safety glasses in the territory of Israel and look forward to a successful relationship as this would appear to be in line with your expertise and current business selling to industrial markets." This quote is the on appendix of the affidavit's paragraph 42. English or Hebrew was not given by any party to this Bristol court. If we follow Mr. Lovett's English affidavit B.P108, we can see in paragraph 42 that it is confirmed by him. After that in same paragraph she quoted the defendant to say, and that the defendant would be happy if he marketed its safety glasses only. In this continues Renner say, see paragraph 43 of the defendant's affidavit, end of quote. If we follow this English affidavit B.P108 given here by the defendant, then, the defendant did not say it at all but opposite. If we ask what Renner's source is, then the answer is the affidavit of the Hebrew translation B.P197 given by the defendant to Renner. It has a totally not the same meaning, but the opposite. Here is the comparison bundle that the translator in this court can approve under an oath. The claimant sent a letter under an oath on 9th of July, 2020 B.P261. English affidavit paragraph 43 B.P108. Apparently, Mr. Shucker description on my above email was taken out of context. By saying that I was happy for Mr. Shucker to market the safety glasses, due to his alleged experience in the industrial market, I was alluding to the fact that this area was suitable for him to focus on in any marketing attempts, contrary to the opticals market, which he had no relation to, nor background or experience in, end of quote. Hebrew affidavit paragraph 43 B.P197.
נדמה שהתיאור של מר שוקר לדול שלי, המצוין לאל, נלקח מחוץ להקשרו. בכך שאמרתי שהייתי שמח לו מר שוקר היה משווק את משקפי המגן לאור הניסיון הנטען שלו בשוק התעשייתי, רמזתי לכך, שתחום זה הוא התחום המתאים לו, שבו הוא צריך להתמקד לשם ניסיונות השיווק שלו, בניגוד לשיווק של מוצרים אופטיים, שלשיווקם אין לו שום קשר, רקע או ניסיון.
Here is the translation that can be confirmed with the translator or Mr. Tiagi, the defendant's lawyer, that speaks a mother tongue Hebrew. Apparently, Mr. Shuker's description on my above email was taken out of context. By saying that I would will be happy for Mr. Shuker if he marketed the safety glasses, due to his alleged experience in the industrial market, I was alluding to the fact that this area was suitable for him to focus on in any marketing attempts, contrary to the opticals market, which he had no relation to, nor background or experience in. End of translation. Originally in the English affidavit B.P113 paragraph 42 and 43, there is no we will / would be happy according to Renners, but only we are happy or was happy. The defendant translated the affidavit B.P192 not under a notary but again by herself. While doing it, the defendant changed the words to fit the situation according to development after first hearing. According to the Hebrew version, bundle paragraph 43 contradicts paragraph 42, and according to the English paragraph 43 supports paragraph 42. If we use the Hebrew translation, anyway the defendant lied because the defendant said, we are happy for you to market based on the determination you are an expert in the industrial field, and after that it was translated to would be happy, and to marketed, became like, I never said you are the distributor, just was wishing you to be. If you will be approved to be, then you could market. If we do not use it and follow the original English affidavit B.P113 paragraph 42 and 43, we can see a contradiction between the above paragraph 13 in the skeleton argument that according to the defendant the claimant was not the distributor, and according to defendant's paragraph 43 originally in English bundle, the claimant was the distributor. The defendant lied also on the appeal on the Supreme Court Appendix 6B.P73, as said on above paragraph 13 that the defendant was not the distributor. The results are that claimant is right and the defendant is not. The defendant changed the context of the affidavit. By changing the words from was are happy to would / will be happy as the quote was taken out of context, the misunderstanding according to Mr. Levitt was not between safety glasses and optical glasses but happy or will / would be happy, and was, that there was never an agreement, a contract, or arrangement between the parties. Above all, the documents are not legal in UK as evidence since they are not translated under a notary. The claim, March 18, 4062 B.P33 on 1437-14 and 4522-14 was because Mr. Levitt Hebrew and English affidavits were not under a notary. This is what happened when any court in the world do not follow the law. Nemo debet seidex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 16.3 versions of the defendant so far, there are more, if was or was not an agreement. As said in paragraph 13 in here above, the claimant was not a distributor and the defendant only promised not to look for another distributor, and the defendant is volunteering to market. The only option is that Mr. Bean is the volunteer. Everybody may laugh, it does not cost money, only a volunteering smile. According to the English affidavit paragraph 43 B.P108, the defendant was happy that the claimant was the distributor. According to Hebrew affidavit paragraph 43 B.P197, the defendant would be happy if the claimant would be the distributor. Nemo debet seidex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 17. A small glance to the CEO testimony. After reading 2 lines, the claimant understood that the CEO could never refute the claimant's main argument that Hayat and Mazuz were sitting in their own cases. If the claimant would read thoroughly the testimony, surely according to what he said so far, there are many contradictions in his testimony, because Mr. CEO did not know that after he gave his testimony the claimant will testimony under an oath that the defendant forged the English affidavit B.P108 given to Renner. The CEO never gave a testimony or affidavit in Israel or never showed as a witness in Israel in any case. It is the first time ever the claimant hears his name. He is the CEO and owns 100% of the company. He never showed regrets that 894917 B.P15 was illegal. He knew all along the last decade and never asked to stop 894917b.p15 even up to now. He is a pharaoh. He helped the Israeli legal system to waste 10 years of the claimant's life as capturing him in a basement as a pedophile kidnaps an infant, raping him till his adulthood. The CEO is up to now living a comfort life, but the defendant is a victim. The CEO is same as a bully, running after Forrest of the Hollywood movie Forrest Gump, abusing the weak chain in our society. Nemo debet seidex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 18. A better offer how to manage the trial. No need to summon any witnesses. The defendant's lawyers investigated the claimant himself and others in 37300-07-15. The claimant investigated Mr. Lovett on 37300-07-15. The defendant investigated the claimant 2 investigations, one as a key witness, the second as an international commerce expert. The claimant declares here a new declaration and swear under an oath before His Honor Wales. The defendant, and not the claimant, gave to 894917 the said above investigations as appendices plus ruling case 452214. The claimant has it in his hand, not a copy but an original with a Supreme Court stamp. The defendant should back up these documents under apostille translation to English. 452214. Date, July 26, 2015. Renner mentioned 452214 on the last page of 37300-07-15. Renner's ruling 37300-07-15 date October 18, 2017. 37300-07-15 date December 5, 2016 Protocol. A hearing. By the way, on this hearing, that I hold now in my hand, it was written that Renair admitted her husband lawyer Mr. Zvili represented the state is case 23008-05-12. Renner's is the bachelor name and Zvili is her husband's surname. She told no one, the claimant discovered it. In this hearing also, she ruled that 37300-07-15 is a natural continuous of 23008-05-12, meaning is one unit. 37300-07-15 date April 4, 2017 Protocol. The defendant investigating witnesses and investigating Mr. Schucker. 37300-07-15 date April 24, 2017, Mr. Schucker investigating the defendant's witness Mr. Lovett. Regards the English/Hebrew affidavit, the notary should translate only the contradictions between them since it is not a good advice to have another translation for the original. He will find the contradiction between 42 and 43 as said above. Maybe there are more. The claimant is asking to add a ruling of the Israeli Justice, Solberg, case 525017 Schucker vs. Inspects. By the way, if talking, the claimant has maybe 30 trials regarding Specs and the justices in Israel and never won even one. Always lost. It is clear why. The claimant will expose how the Israeli Supreme Court cheat. He quotes the law, after contradicts the law. If you complain, you will pay a fine. Every party will be able to use any document that already approved to be in this case, POC notary appendices, CEO testimony, etc. A fair hearing will be that both parties will have a bundle under an adversary court. The defendant will serve the bundle and translate all documents and pay the notary. Each party will be able to have skeleton arguments based on the above documents. Any other idea is non-efficient. Nemo debet seidex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 19. Regard Inspects Breaking Human Rights Act 1988 Article 6. It has been proven that Inspects, the defendant knew it all and was a part of the scam. The witness Mr. CEO, until this moment is not admitting that he broke the law. Court should decide according to Appendix 7b.p86, what are the compensation inspects as limited company, and in separately the CEO, should pay because of breaking the UK law Human Rights Act 1988 as the claimant testimony on Appendix 7 in the POCB.P86. Nemo debet se iudex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 20. Miscarriage of justice, perjury and frauds, contradictions and desecration of the natural laws, Ulrich, Locke, Koch, Hobbes, Leviathan 17 and 18, Bible, Gospels, 77a, A1, of the Israeli Law, Human Rights 1988 Article 6 of the UK, Hammurabi, Ashnana, Ur Namu, Lipid Ishtar, Rome Maxima, the common denominator of Hayat Mazuz and the defendant. Even if we considering 894917b.P15 as legal, it becomes not a fair trial under Human Rights Act 1988 Article 6, the right to have a fair trial, since the defendant did not say the truth on 894917b.P15 and 37300-07-15 while using a fake affidavit. Perjury is criminal. The defendant herself attached the two versions of the affidavits. According to Israeli laws, none of them was a legal affidavit, not the English, not the Hebrew. The defendant just wrote on the headings affidavit equals B.P192, but they never were. Therefore, the defendant key witness, Mr. Lovett, swore on stage in court that the Hebrew and English affidavits are true. The claimant has the document in his hand. It cannot be a Hebrew, since he was not warned by a lawyer or an authorized clerk. How can it be approved? Easy. No clerk stamp, name, or signature as there is on his English affidavit B.P124. Does Hayat wants anybody to know that her 1437/14 was corruption justifying perjury? Approving a perjury affidavit? Here is a quote from March 18, 4062 paragraph 4 B.P34. She ruled that the defendant in proceeding 1437/14 duly filed an affidavit. Surely not, since it even was not an affidavit according to Israeli law, not translated with a notary to Hebrew from English, and to this Bristol court the defendant did not show any notary translation. According to Israeli law only Hebrew is the legal language, Arabic is secondary, English is not. Even if we agree that both are legal affidavits, they contradict each other. Hayat is partial. Does Mazuz in case 4522-14 wants anybody to know he supported Hayat in 1437-14 supporting perjury? No, he is partial. Does Hayat and Mazuz want anybody to know that Hayat was sitting in her own case? No. Do Hayat and Mazuz want anybody to know that Renner, a PhD of Law Studies Yale University, second degree of Harvard, do not know the difference between present progressive and future? No. Do they want somebody to know that she describes the dispute so thoroughly but analyze is as an infant does, as two UFOs from different stars, one IQ 140 the second IQ as an amoeba, wrote the ruling? No. Therefore, they presided to 894917b.P15 to unlock Pandora box. The beneficiary is the defendant. The victim is the claimant. If the conviction recognizes civil ruling between Israel and UK, then it is the same as Mr. Lovett conduct, perjury in the UK. The claimant also proved that the defendant faked an affidavit as many contradictions see upper paragraph 15 and 13. The total summary is miscarriage of justice even if we consider it the defendant translated by mistake and did not fake. Who misled Renner by mistake? The defendant. Who misled the Supreme Court by mistake? The defendant. Who has the legal liability according to Human Rights Act 1988 Article 6 to correct such a critical mistake? His Honor Wales. Who did not tell the truth to this Bristol court that the Hebrew affidavit and the English are not the same? The defendant. Who were sitting on their cases? Hayat and Mazuz. Who was just a number? Wilner. Who always tell the truth? The claimant. He is rude, stupid, not smart, arrogant, do not speak English, not a diplomat, living in the desert nearby the camels, but he never lies. Nemo debet se iudex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 21. A manifest illegality order according to Israeli Supreme Court itself. Judge Benjamin Halevi's words, still much quoted today, were that the hallmark of manifest illegality is that it must wave like a black flag over the given order, a warning that says, forbidden. See also English Wikipedia. Benjamin Halevi. Judge Benjamin Halevi RSP passed away 1996, was a Supreme Court justice. Hayat did not promote him. The claimant asks this court to let law win. An eye for an eye, a guard wall for a guard wall. We can change the world to the benefit of our children and grandchildren. Maybe once in a life, a justice has a real opportunity to change the world, to affect worldwide. Halevi did it, he afraid nobody. His Honor Wales has an opportunity to do it also, as did the claimant, since the opportunity came along. Regarding 77a, a 1, said by Hayat herself, the claimant will quote William Shakespeare, the devil can cite scripture for his purpose, and it has been proven clearly. Now it is clear why did the claimant wrote the book Armageddon and the Beast, the protocols of the adjudicators of Zion. The claimant is a lamb, a small fish, hunted by cannibals, not to quench hunger, but enjoy the kill. Nemo debet seidex impropria sua causa. Maxim, no one can sit on his own case. Dimes v. Grand Junction 1852. 22. Dimes v. Grand Junction Canal, 1852, was a case heard by the House of Lords. The case addresses the point that judges must not appear to be biased. Lord Cottenham presided over a previous case in which a canal company brought a case in equity against a landowner. Lord Cottenham was later discovered to have had shares in said company. The verdict stated that although there was no suggestion that the Lord Chancellor had in fact been influenced by his interest in the company, no case should be decided by a judge with a financial interest in the outcome. It was held that the Lord Chancellor was disqualified from sitting as a judge in the case because he had an interest in the action. Here is a nose quote. Lord Campbell said, "No one can suppose that Lord Cottenham could be, in the remotest degree, influenced by the interest he had in this concern. But, my lords, it is of the last importance that the maxim that no man is to be a judge in his own cause should be held sacred. And that is not to be confined to a cause in which he is a party, but applies to a cause in which he has an interest. Since I have had the honor to be Chief Justice of the Court of Queen's Bench, we have again and again set aside proceedings in inferior tribunals because an individual, who had an interest in a cause, took a part in the decision. And it will have a most salutary influence on these tribunals when it is known that this High Court of last resort, in a case in which the Lord Chancellor of England had an interest, considered that his decree was on that account a decree not according to law, and was set aside. This will be a lesson to all inferior tribunals to take care not only that in their decrees they are not influenced by their personal interest, but to avoid the appearance of laboring under such an influence." As far as the claimant understood, Lord Cottenham was the Lord High Chancellor of Great Britain up to 1850. He was the justice on Dimes. After he passed away, and Mr. Dimes appealed, the Justice Lord Campbell took place as Chief Justice of the Court of Queen's Bench. Both Cottenham and Campbell were equivalent to Hayat's and Mazzou's ranks. Lord Campbell ruled that Lord Cottenham did not know about his stakes. Even though, since he made a profit somehow, Cottenham ruling was set aside. This case is much terrible. 2 lords in the Israeli Supreme Court of Israel knew about their interests for 3 years and did not disqualify themselves 3 times each. This is not a mistake. This is corruption. They could not imagine the claimant will break the concrete walls and escape to UK. Wilner could be Lord Campbell, she did not, the claimant never sued her. She is corrupt. It is a regime. This case is the worst ever in the Kingdom of England's history. Dimes' case sounds like an ant standing nearby an elephant. Since King Athelstan, there was not such abnormal case. This case might be the most quoted in the world since Dimes. So easy case to order, so vast influence it might have. Maxima. Nemo. Debet seidex impropria sua causa. Thank you, Your Honor.